Hello everyone. Welcome back again to French Bread's Dark Souls 3 Lore Run. I am French Bread, or Chris if you prefer. And we are back where we left off. Standing outside of the Cathedral of the Deep. And basically our goal this time, this session is going to be to get through the first few areas of the Cathedral of the Deep. But before we do that, we really want to loop around here, deal with this, looks to be a, well, use our binoculars. We've been spited by our binoculars. Alright. Looks to be a fellow fallen knight down there. He's got a bandit knife and plain Jane longsword. But the treasure he's guarding is something we are very much interested in. We're gonna R1 spam to win. If he's gonna let us. Ooh! That's what I get for using lazy tactics, right? He'll actually, I was about to say, he'll actually throw knives, chase our ass down. We gotta be careful. Not too careful, but just a little bit careful of getting low on stamina and letting him break our guard. As you can see, it was a kukri he threw directly into back. Really good aim on that guy. But for our vaguely challenging fight, we get a Paladin's Ashes in return. And we're going to be turning those in very, very soon. But I want to grab some of the items around here before we do. Titanite Shard. I don't believe, other than a nice vista of Farron Keep over there with the Crucifixion Woods in between it. I don't believe there's anything else up here, which is kind of a shame, kind of a lost opportunity actually. What they do a little bit better on is this side path. This will lead you to this drop down, and then you can scale the side of this, I don't want to call it a cliff face, maybe a hill face. And at this stack of graves, we get a crest shield. And beat on this brigand type enemy down there. Now, this feels really unfair, but Dark Souls. Then again, oh, we got kind of cheated out of a dropping attack there, but thanks to this admittedly cool stamina buff, we were able to keep the pressure on and take that guy out without too much trouble. He can mess you up pretty good if you aren't lucky with your approach. But okay, we took care of those guys. We got our items. Let's head back to Firelink Shrine and play catch up. What is she looking at? That was weird. Looks like she poured it in and then she deliberately looked over here. Just the usual crowd though. Alright, first things first. Items. And nothing new there. Or here. We got something new here. Paladin's Ashes. Umbral ash of a worn-out paladin who sought the Cathedral of the Deep. With this, the shrine handmaid will prepare new items. This paladin paid quite a price for his headstrong justice. And we can see that the hand in this case is gripping a very definable undead hunter or charm, what would have been called a Lloyd's talisman in the past. I suppose he took umbrage to what was going on in the Cathedral of the Deep and tried to do something about it, but got cut down by that fallen knight, maybe his brigand buddy. No new weapons, anything of that nature, but we did get the crest shield. A knight's shield engraved with a crest. One of the enchanted blue shields, the crest shield greatly reduces dark damage. As we can see, it's got 86 versus dark, which actually might be fairly helpful with where we're going. In previous, at least in Dark Souls 1, this shield, its strong point was actually, I believe, magic. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was magic that it was best against. And it's still not bad, but now it's really good against dark. No new gear except for the Herald stuff, I believe. Which is steel armor with a pure white cape, the signature of Heralds of the Way of White. Protection made of steel has excellent physical absorption, but is lacking against blunt strikes and lightning damage. We get a little bit more information here. Steel helm said to be worn by Heralds of the Way of White, who deliver commandments of duty. So, you know, what a herald does. They deliver commands. They're kind of like runners, messengers. It's actually, especially the chest piece, it's kind of cool armor. We may consider it for future fashion. No new rings, I believe. So that should do it for those items. I'm going to take off that ring of sacrifice so we don't accidentally use it. But let's talk to Lulith, because we've gotten a boss soul since last we've talked.
Aha, thou returned, and a fine day it is. So,
He's very happy to get his hands on some twisted souls, I'm noting.
knowest thou?
Nothing else new to say, though. Alright, so one of the items we can get is a sorcery called Crystal Hail. Unique sorcery developed by the extraordinary preacher twins known as the Crystal Sages. Casts a cascade of small crystals, soul masses, from above. Crystal soul masses have piercing qualities. In a pact said to have been formed long ago, one of the sages allied with the Undead Legion in order to train the sorcerers of Faerun. So, not really any new information there, except for more clear evidence that the Crystal Sages, in one way or another, inherited knowledge of Big Hat Logan's sorceries. They also allow us access to the Crystal Sage's rapier. Thrusting sword with tiny crystals scattered across its blade, used by the Crystal Sages for self-defense. The crystals boost the magic damage inflicted by the sword and the item discovery of its wielder, fruits of a lifetime of research conducted by the sages. Yeah, so that's fairly useful. I think it's a buff of 50 to our item discovery, and as interesting as Crystal Hail might be, we're playing a Lorerun and we have to do a lot of farming, so I am going to transpose this right away to get ourselves that rapier. And what we can do with that is we can put it into our offhand when we're farming to get that passive buff.
Now.
Alrighty. I don't think Hawkwood's going to talk to us about anything new.
Gaining admission.
Indeed. He wants us to go gain admission. But let's talk to Emma.
Well
Oh no,
met,
I called her
Ashen
Emma.
One.
Shit.
How may I be of service?
That is not my fault. There's a friend of mine who's playing the game as well. Aiku called her Emma, and he got it stuck in my head. Nah, she's just plain Jane Shrine handmaid. Emma's that high priestess over in Lothric. Damn it.
Gracious. Passing, let this I only.
She doesn't have anything specifically new to say about getting those ashes. And I'm going to hear about that later. Alright. So now Emma is selling a supply, or an unlimited supply of undead hunter charms, which we're actually going to want to grab a handful of for reasons that will become apparent later. She also sells the duel charm. Tool used in duels of judgment. Nulls effect of special area effects for a short time. All Father Lloyd's knights lived in fear of his duels of judgment, in which verdicts were carried out by his sword of law. So, that's actually kind of cool as far as the lore goes, that we get the very, again, that impression that the Way of White is, or at least was, very militaristic. I suppose it existed in a more, if you can believe it, a more tumultuous time when need for knights was greater, and the need for knights and the need for strict discipline was very high. It's also cool that Allfather Lloyd was not, it seems, an armchair leader of the church. He was very much ready to pronounce judgment with his own blade, putting his own life on the line. So yeah, maybe a little bit more of a badass than we really gave him credit for. I believe this also gives us access to the Crescent Axe, a crescent-shaped halberd resembling a long-handled battle axe, traditionally wielded by Way of White clerics. And that was certainly the case in Dark Souls 1, when one of the cleric aides to Rhea used one of these crescent axes. I don't remember his name, sorry. We also get the Canvas Talisman, medium for casting miracles of the gods. Canvas talismans are austere items carried by heralds. Equip a talisman or a sacred chime to cast miracles. Miracles must be blah 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 blah. So it's just another talisman, not a lot of lore on it. But what we do see now is that the exile armor has shown up in the handmaid's shop since we took care of those exile knights. Iron Mask of the Watchdogs of Farron's Keep. After the Legion's Watchers became Lords of Cinder, the wolf blood dried up, and Farron was consumed by a festering wood. Within the wood, an emaciated old wolf commands watchdogs to defend the sanctity of sleeping warriors. Both exiles were surely watchdogs themselves, for Farron has always been a land of itinerates. Maybe that's what that sign, that developer sign that seemed like it was pointing towards the exiles, was referring to. Don't fuck with the sleeping warriors, or else these dudes are gonna fuck with you. Their armor is all the same. But that's a very interesting point. Once the Abyss Watchers became Lords of Cinder, the wolf's blood dried up, and that caused a change in the woods. They became a festering swamp, essentially. So becoming Lords of Cinder, however necessary, did not have a good effect on the region. Sage's Big Hat. Enormous hat that completely obscures the face. Belonged to the twin gurus known as the Crystal Sages. The pair are said to be successors to the great sage Logan, and this big hat is a symbol of their pedigree. So there you go. The Crystal Sages are successors, or said to be successors, of Logan. Lloyd's Shield Ring. Ring given to Knights of the Way of White. Depicts Allfather Lloyd's Shield of Caste. Much time has passed since the worship of Lloyd was common in the Way of White. The clerics of Karim had always strongly asserted that Lloyd was a derivative fraud, and that the Allfather title was self-proclaimed. So there you have it. That right there, I think, is the main reason why Allfather Lloyd has basically been forgotten by most modern practitioners of the Way of White. Whatever happened in Astora, and maybe something changed in Thurland as well, but the shift of the Way of White to Karim meant that the church, I don't know if we're going to call it, I guess it's a church. The church's doctrine changed to reflect the new region it existed in, and since the clerics of Karim had never put any stock in Lloyd or his proclamations, they kind of wrote him out of the religion, essentially. Let us buy those 100 charms right now.
Ashen one.
And we're going to wrap around the path here. Speak with Orbeck, who does not bring dead animals into my shrine.
Oh, you're back then. Again, I'm Orbeck of Vinheim, here to teach you sorceries. Let us begin with the basics. The ideal sorcerer bears the twin faces of the dragon. You could at least act as if you're paying attention.
Which is funny, because we'd really like to hear his entire spiel, but apparently we don't actually care. Oh well.
It is folly to claim lives recklessly, friend. Do not be tempted. No matter the victim's stature, every killing has a consequence. Even as I bloodied my hands, I never realized this simple truth. There I was, the very definition of a fool. I don't mean to seem overbearing, but have you forgotten? In exchange for my sorceries, you are to bring me knowledge in the form of scrolls detailing the secrets of sorcery. I hope you're not one to break a promise.
Well, that's very interesting. Orbeck clearly has a checkered past. But he sells us a bunch of sorceries, including Great Soul Arrow, sorcery which improves upon Soul Arrow. Many sorceries inflict magic damage, making them effective against iron armor, tough scales, and other physically resilient materials. He has the Heavy Soul Arrow, which we've seen before, but also the Great Heavy Soul Arrow. Sorceries are a logical discipline, their strength influenced by the caster's intelligence. Not a lot to say about that, though. Farron Dart, variation of Soul Arrow developed by sorcerers of the Undead Legion of Farron. Well known among Farron sorceries, it is learned far and wide due to its ease of use. Soul Greatsword, sorcery developed primarily for sorcerer swordsmen. Attacks with the greatsword formed from souls. The ephemeral blade only exists as an extension of the caster, but its power is said to rival that of physical greatswords. Even the most obstinate magical purists may resort to this spell in times of crisis. Farron Flash Sword, alteration of the Soul Greatsword developed by sorcerers of the Undead Legion of Farron. The Legion had a tendency to emphasize speed over power, and this practical alteration of an existing sorcery is no exception. And he has the magic weapon and the magic shield we've seen before, and a spell called Spook. Sorcery developed by a certain surreptitious sorcerer at Vinheim Dragon School. Makes noises of the caster, masks noises of the caster and prevents fall damage. Their mastery of this sorcery alone allows Vinheim spooks to demand handsome payment for their services. And finally, Oral Decoy. Sorcery developed by, yet again, a certain surreptitious sorcerer at the Vinheim Dragon School. Distracts foes with a distant sound. The sound carries with it a strangely infectious resonance that may cause one to stray from their post and expose their back. So, Spook and Oral Decoy are definitely the tools, well, not of your standard scholarly wizard, right? These are the tools of assassins, basically. And I don't think it's any surprise that Orbeck is holding these. I think he is probably an assassin, or was an assassin for the Vinheim Dragon School, much in the same way that many theorize Griggs of Vinheim was in the same position in Dark Souls 1. And I do believe the certain surreptitious sorcerer who devised these may have indeed been Griggs. Alright, that's what he's got for us for now.
Come again.
And a very simple sign off from him. That works for me. What is our stock? Very low on everything. Alright, well, I do believe we've done everything we need to do right now. I'll talk to Yuria real quick, because I do think she might have something new for us.
Speak thy desire, honorable Lord of Hollows. Oh, good Hollow. I'm afraid I must say, Orbeck of Vinheim is a cause of much consternation. He proclaimeth himself Lord of Hollows. If left alone, he may one day imperil thy rule. Fall to this matter yearly, else we are unraveled. Decisiveness is the mark of a true monarch.
Okay.
Orbeck of if left for till we meet again. May the dark sigil guide thee.
So Yuria wants nothing to do with Orbeck. She wants his ass dead. She claims that he's calling himself the Lord of Hollows when that should be our title, right?
Back again, I suppose this... I don't mean to see him in the face.
Yep.
Come again.
He doesn't say anything about it, and I don't remember him saying anything about being a Lord of Hollows. So, if, as is almost certainly the case... Oh, I almost forgot. If Yuria is not being entirely honest with us here, why would she not want Orbeck around?
Tis good, wasn't he?
Does he know something that she doesn't want getting
Pretty good.
spoken about? Is he some sort of threat to Londor's plans? I don't know, but we'll have to keep it in mind moving forward. Back to the Cathedral of the Deep. I swear we'll get to the first bonfire there. At the very least. As you can see, those assholes don't respawn, so we're safe from that at least. We do have to get through this irritating area. Actually, I'm finding that this weapon is very, not weak, but it's not strong against dogs either. You gotta really time your attacks. You can't Can't play around too much with it. They will do shit like that to you. I should probably ember up just for the extra life. Ah, they got me too. These punks. 3 different arbalists all coming down on you. Got it. Alright. Heavy bolts. Oh, another dag. Okay. Dark Souls doesn't quite know how to resolve interactions when you're in the air, does it? Alright, through this large archway. You start seeing the graves getting packed densely. I'm gonna move this way. Almost not far enough, actually. So there you go. That's our introduction to a new spin on the hollow enemy type. Pretty sky, though. This guy's seemingly not hostile to us. We have a bunch of hollows that look like they're worshipping by this obelisk, but we can't get to the treasure on their account, so sorry, y'all. They want to play tricks on us. Another Estus shard already. Not complaining, but it's pretty quick. Head through here. See that body up there with the item in the window, so we know we can get over there at some point. For once, does not open from this side is not a message we receive. We kind of enter this little chapel area. And our first bonfire in the cathedral proper. Just above. What I think I would be accurate to call foreshadowing. Very cool display, though. I wonder what the I can't remember what the term for that is. A kind of stone statue. I don't know. Let's not beat ourselves up over it, eh? So we just got ourselves a new weapon in the form of the notched whip. A whip with thorny spikes that shred skin, causing heavy bleeding. The cleansing chapel uses whips such as these in order to produce the drops and puddles to wipe clean during its rituals. Okay, that's kind of weirdly phrased, but it seems to be implying that these whips are used to basically tear somebody or somebody's up, and the drops and puddles of blood are symbolically, I guess, wiped away in a ritual. I think that's what's being implied there. And this is indeed, if you saw briefly from the bonfire, this is called the Cleansing Chapel. Seems like they got no problem cleansing with fire. So now we're faced with two paths. You can head down through here, or head up through the graveyard. I'm gonna like to head this way, because I think with the amount of time left in this episode, this is a better path to pursue. Alrighty. Sorry, I was just checking something. Alrighty. Let's hope we play alright. So this maggot-infested monster is a huge pain in the ass. The moment they hit you, you'll find yourself covered in maggots that start kind of chewing away at your flesh and causing slow bleed buildup. And the only way to really get rid of it is to either use a red moss clump, which I checked and we do not have, or to equip a torch, and the fire of the torch will somehow get rid of all the maggots. I do not have a torch on me, but rest assured that's going to be rectified in the next episode. So right here we have a very disturbing statue. It looks like a human being overtaken by something on his back, or wearing something on his back. It's fairly creepy, whatever it is. As you can see, by the way, fire isn't bad against these creatures. Yeah, okay, so we give him one fire orb and give him one hit with our pickaxe. We should be in good shape. Oh! I switched weapons, but just as well. Settled one way or the other, right? And we picked up a miracle catalyst over there. And we'll read that probably next episode, but maybe at the end of this one. I've yet to decide. Twinkling. Honestly, at this point, I just like a stack of regular Titanite and some large shards rather than all this twinkling, but I'm sure we'll find a use for it eventually. Listen here, you. Oh, I was apparently a bit too lazy. And he got away from us. No big deal. What we'll do is reload the game real quick. It's an easy trick in case you miss a crystal lizard. Just exit out, come back in, and oh hi. I'm not even going to talk about that. You all saw what happened. Over here, chilling out in the crystals. There's a very large crystal lizard, which, I'm going to be honest, I prefer, given that he can't run away from me, or won't run away. Take your pick. Titanite scale to add to the collection. Alright, let's head briefly this way. And we see we got another one of these guys to deal with. Tried to dodge, but not quite quick enough. And we get ourselves a poison bite ring, which I believe, let's go the other way. The description is almost verbatim the same as the blood bite ring. They just replaced the word bleed with poison, so no need to check that out later. Wrapping back around here, get another Titanite shard, and as you can see, we are back to the cleansing chapel proper. That puts our shard count up to 4. It's not that much, but it might be enough to get us on a start towards getting a new weapon up to speed. Because unfortunately, I am not warming to this pick at all. But that'll be an issue for another time. Let's take a quick look at the items we've picked up, and then we'll call it here for this episode. Well, I assume we got some items, right? Ah, yes. Saint Tree Bellvine. Sacred chime for casting miracles of the gods. A bellvine cut from a small saint tree that has been meticulously tended to. Saint Tree Bellvines are customary in the far north and allow for faster casting than ordinary sacred chimes. So it has, wow, a far less powerful scaling rank, but evidently it will allow us to cast miracles faster should we want to do such a thing. And I think that might have actually been the only new item we picked up. I'm going to go just a little bit farther because that doesn't sit well with me at all. So we're going to head a little bit in this direction. And then we'll find a good place to end the video up here. You can see, spooky, scary graveyard full of these guys. Just kind of naked, emaciated hollows who just continually, endlessly respawn. Let's head back. And their main job basically is just to impede us more than it is to really do any damage to us. If they get you trapped with a group of them, that's when they are a lethal threat. Store a greatsword. New and kind of cool item. Over here, you can take a drop down. Down the path and get to this overlook here, where an item or two await us. Though it's a rather conspicuous setup, isn't it? I don't think these guys are going to react until we pick up the items, so let's just take them out right now. They will be a hassle later. Executioner's greatsword. So as you can see, the trap's springing into motion here. And these guys make their first appearance. These guys are freaking gross. Basically, maggots explode out of the stomachs of these hollow dudes here. And when they hit you, you get the maggot effect on yourself as well. Oh, I'm paying attention to my exit route getting closed off. And we'll want to watch our damage because at this point, bleed is inevitable. Let's see our destination just over that way. But I do think we're going to retreat from the graveyard right now, having acquired a few more items to round out our episode with. Because I want to head back to Firelink Shrine, and at the very least, acquire a torch for myself. So that we don't have to worry about this blood loss shenanigans again. Quick rest to get rid of these maggots. Now let's check them out. Astora Greatsword. This greatsword, bestowed only upon elite knights, is a relic of the ruined land of Astora. Designed for a focus on thrust attacks, this sword is hard and sharp, but not unusually heavy. And true to the description, it only weighs 8 pounds, which is less than most other ultra greatswords you're ever going to encounter in this game. We also have the Executioner's Greatsword, which is a regular greatsword, and it still weighs more than the Astora Greatsword, so that's pretty good item. And it looks pretty dang cool too. If you just want a very standard, not 100% unrealistic looking sword, this is not a bad one to go with. It has a large dexterity requirement, so it's sort of locked in pretty heavily to being a quality weapon. The Executioner Greatsword, however, is a different story. With a C in strength and an E in dex, it kind of sets itself up pretty distinctly as a strength-oriented weapon. And as you can see, it has, instead of the slicing or regular thing, it has a strike damage. So instead of standard slash thrust, it's strike, as if it were a hammer. Oop. Great sword of a debauched executioner used for beheadings. This sword retains a keen memory of its executioner's duty and absorbs FP from each fallen foe. And it looks pretty badass, if I do say so myself. Memories of the hard edge, right, from FF7. Very cool sheath on the back too. In point of fact, though, this is actually based on real executioner swords that have been discovered and are on display. I'm pretty sure if you just Google executioner sword, you'll see samples of this that are on display in certain museums. Standard greatsword moveset. No thrusting attacks, obviously. But everything's considered strike, so that means it could be better against certain enemy types. And if we let our stamina regenerate, do this cool spin move out of the stomp. So it's not a bad moveset, really. And it's strength based, so we might use this weapon for a while at some point. Not exactly sure when, but I definitely like it a lot, and I haven't had a lot of cause to use it before in the past. It weighs considerably less than the Great Machete, which I was thinking about using next. I'll have to debate on that, but for now, we're going to cut off the episode. I'm going to bid you guys adieu, and hope you join me for the next one. See you later, y'all.